Hey, what's going on, Warhammer World? This is Obsidian Anubis, and I'm back with another Ninth Age battle report. So this is the fifth battle at the OFCC, game number 5, Sharnuks Horde versus a Vermin Swarm. So coming into this match, I have had two 20-0 massacre wins, one 5-15 loss, and then a 10-10 draw against an Empire player. So I would recommend, if you have not seen my other videos, to go back and look at the other videos first, especially the brush and fluff video number 2. It'll go through my army, because I will not do that for this video. So I was really excited going into the match. I was on the top table with another great player playing a Vermin Swarm. So I've never played Vermin Swarm in 9th Age, and I only played it once in 8th Age, so I really did not know a whole bunch of what they could do. But let's go and go into it. So I have a level 2 Beast. So he had the Curse of the Wildwood and the Beast Within, and then my other wizard had the Wizarding Hood, and he rolled up Flaming Embers and the Fireball. So some good spells there. So let's go and go through my opponent's army. So he had Rat Swarms, a Dread Mill, Foot Pads, and they just have a banner. Next to that is a group of Rat at Arms with a champion, and they have a weapons team. And then I believe they also have the Assassin, although I don't know that at this point in time, who has the Mithril Mill. And next to that group is a large group, a Vermin Guard. And there is a champion, the Tyrant with the Doom Blade, which I completely forgot about, which my opponent will remind me of painfully later. Also in that group is the Magister with the Dispel Scroll and the Talisman of Supreme Shielding, and a Rakitis Machinist, which I'm guessing is what they're calling the new engineers. Then over here on my opponent's left side is another weapons team, a Lightning Cannon, a Plague Catapult, and Giselle is up there on the hill, and another Dread Mill and a Rat Swarm. So this was a classic deployment, with the secondary objective being getting into your breakthrough, getting into your opponent's deployment zone with a banner. So for my side, on my right side, I deployed my Skirmishing Goblins, and the next to them are actually my Iron Orcs. They just couldn't all fit there, so that you can see where the block is, but they're actually up there next to the Goblins. Behind them is a Git Launcher, and next to them is a group of 5 Spider Riders. They're facing the wrong direction because I know my opponent has Gutter Runners, so they're just waiting for them to come on. In front of that is my large group of Ferals, and in that group of Ferals I also have my BSB. I actually decided to take my General out of that unit because I knew my opponent had a lot of shooting, and I added him with my Boar Boys along with my Wizard. Next to my Ferals is my Gargantula, my Double D-Rock. Next to that is my Feral Giant, and then on the flank is my 46 Goblin, Cave Goblin Horde with 3 Mad Gits. So we took turns deploying, and then about halfway through my opponent placed the rest of his army down, so he got the first turn. So Vermin Swarm, turn 1. So on the left side, just moved up a little bit, the Doom Wheel, or the Dread Mill, decided to shoot some of his rats in this turn, which was a benefit, although it didn't really do too much overall. And then on this right flank, he just kind of moved around. We had this huge building in the middle of the battlefield, which is really awkward to move around. I think they did this on purpose in the game, but it was really annoying to have this just large obstacle right in the middle of the battlefield. Either in magic or shooting, I don't remember which one, he killed 3 of my Spider Riders, but luckily I passed my panic test and held. Yeah, and shooting phase, this is where he did the 1 wound to the Rat Swarm. And then he also managed to put 2 wounds onto my Feral Giant. And my opponent still wasn't done. He managed to kill off another about 6 or so of my Iron Orcs. So my opponent had a pretty good shooting phase for turn 1. So that brings us to Sharnuks Horde, turn 1. Being a classic Feral Orc, I moved up in style. I moved up as quick as I could, popped my icon of Relentless Company to move up 3 times with my Feral Orcs. Just trying to get in combat as fast as possible because I know I can't withstand that shooting for too much longer. Here's a picture of my right flank. In Magic Phase, I managed to get Curse of the Wildwood off on his Vermin Guard, so that way if they decided to charge or anything like that, they would have a dangerous terrain. Other than that, my magic and shooting was pretty disastrous, so that takes us to Vermin Swarm, turn 2. So my opponent's left flank, he just kind of moved his swarms around a little bit. He actually moved his swarms farther away that his Giselles were closer to his Dread Mill, but he passed his leadership test this turn, so it didn't shoot anybody, unfortunately. And then on his right flank, you can see he's just kind of making this pocket ready for my troops to come in, or come around the building. His Gutter Runners came on, so he had a group come on here next to the Git Launcher, and then he had another group come on here behind my General and Wizard and the boar boys. In Magic Phase, he managed to get off a couple spells. I managed to dispel the Eternal Frenzy, but he did get off another spell and gave his Vermin Guard the Lore of Metal attribute. Sorry, this is a kind of blurry picture. In Shooting Phase, his Gutter Runners managed to destroy my Gate Launcher, unfortunately. And then he also managed to kill off 3 of my boars. Luckily, my guy's a frenzy, so I didn't have to worry about panic tests, but it was painful to lose them this early in the game already, especially the Gate Launcher. Other than that, that was the end of my opponent's second turn, so that brings us to Sharnuks Horde, turn 2. Alright, so in movement phase, I decided to move my spiders over to start seeing if I could pick off a couple of the gutter runners, and I moved my boar boys more behind my ferals. You can see I kind of moved up my spider, so he had a flank protected by the obstacle, and then you can see I moved my goblins around the building. My feral giant, unfortunately, at this point had nowhere to go. I poorly placed him, so he's just kind of stuck behind the building at the moment. On the right-hand flank, I moved up my ferals and my iron orcs as fast as I could, and then I elected to move my skirmishing goblins back to take some shots at the gutter runners. In magic phase, I managed to get 10 power dice, which I managed to get the beast within off on my feral orcs, so that way if my opponent decided to charge in, at least I would have +1 strength and +1 toughness. And that was the end. I didn't have any shooting to speak of. Well, I did have my skirmisher shot at the gutter runners. I think I only managed to kill 1, and my opponent didn't have to make a panic test, so yeah, that was it. So that brings us to Vermin Swarm, turn 3. So in movement phase, my opponent decided to move his rat swarms next to my goblins. So next turn, I would have to shoot my goblins, my mad gets out at this target because they're within 8 inches. He elected to move these guys. He ignored the 2 spiders and moved them just to harass my giant. And these guys decided to turn and face and just kind of shot back at my skirmishers. And this is where my forgetfulness cost me. I moved up my spider too close and I forgot that my opponent had the Doom Blade. So he charged his Vermin Swarm into my spider, and with that feral blade, it made a mess and easily wiped out my spider. And he overran and clipped into my feral orcs, which, this is how we played it. He just clipped and then that's how we played it. Apparently, according to a comment I had on one of my previous videos, at this point you actually can slide over, so it'd be a noose charge. So he actually may not have clipped. He may have actually hit in more feral orcs. But either way, this is the way we played it. We played it that he clipped on. And that brings us to Sharnuks Horde, turn 3. So in movement phase, I just elected to move up my goblins as close as I could to the Doom Will. So as I was going to be releasing the Mad Gets this turn, I might as well send them out and maybe cause a wound or 2 on the Dread Mill. I decided to charge my goblins into my Goblin Spider Riders into the Gutter Runners to see if I could just hopefully break them through combat res and wipe them out. You notice that the giant is missing from this picture? Yeah, that's because they did 4 wounds last turn with the stupid poison. I'm beginning to really dislike poison. It's really starting to hurt me here. On the right-hand side, my skirmishers did manage to finish off the Gutter Runners. I can't really remember if I killed them outright or if I killed enough and then they caused a panic. Either or. Other than that, that was all that was really speak of. We just kind of had a pillow fight in combat with the Vermin Guard. I killed a few of his, he killed a few of mine. Everybody stuck around. So that moves us to Vermin Swarm, turn 4. So here we moved over the Feral Orcs. I moved them over, actually, I think, on my turn so I could get more attacks in. You can also see that I have my General and my Wizard here. My other Orcs, I think, died by this point by his Gutter Runners. He charged his second group of large rats into my Feral Orcs at this point, and this is where he, I found out that he had the Assassin hidden in that group. And then he also moved his other rat swarm to chaff up my Iron Orcs from getting a flank charge. So it's kind of what it looks like after shooting. You can see that the Gutter Runners have moved up behind my Wizard and General and managed to put 1 wound onto my General. Actually, this picture should have actually been taken on my turn. So this is actually out of order. So this is a foreshadowing of the future. When in my shooting turn, last turn, my goblins threw out the Mad Gets. I did a couple wounds to his Doom Will. 1 went through and actually is on the other side of the cannon. It actually did 1 wound to the cannon and killed 1 Giselle. The other 2 stopped short, but the Doom Will, I think, is on either 1 or 2 wounds remaining. So you can see in this picture he just moved a little bit out of the side, trying to get out of the front arc of my goblins, but he actually didn't make it quite. In Magic Phase, he got off the Lore of Metal attribute on his Vermin Guard. Again, I managed to dispel the Eternal Frenzy, but he did get off 1 or 2 spells, which definitely helped him in this combat. And yeah, it was. I mean, it wasn't a massacre by any standards. I killed off tons of his. He killed off tons of mine. I think he beat me by probably 4 or 5. I needed a 4 or so to hold. I couldn't roll it. I actually think I did have my BSB at this point too, and I rolled twice and I just still couldn't get it. So he overran with his 2 units and wiped them out. So this brings us to Sharnuk's Horde turn 4. So in my turn, I decided to charge my Iron Orcs into the chaff because there was really nothing else for them to do at this point. You can see I turned my general around to face the gunner runners, so if they did not move, I can charge them next turn. And then I also moved up my skirmishing goblins to pretty much throw as many tomahawks as they could into the large rat group there. In the magic phase, I managed to get the Beast Within off on, I believe I put this on my general, giving him toughness 7, because I thought that would help, but then my opponent's like, well, I just have poison. I'm like, oh, right, that doesn't matter. Never mind. Also in movement, I did manage to charge my goblins into the flank of the Doomwill. He killed off 3 or 4 of my goblins, but with all my ranks and my banner, I don't think I did a wound, but I did manage to break him. Unfortunately, I did not quite catch him. In close combat over here, I easily overran, and I believe I hit into the... No, I don't think... I just overran and just moved into the woods here. You can see that my opponent's foot pads or whatever, though, are fleeing at this point. I believe he actually shot those on his own turn with his weapons team, and so they actually panicked and ran away. So that brings us to Vermin Swarm turn 5. So on the left side, he rallied his Doomwheel, unfortunately. And on the right side, he just kind of moved his Doomwheel around my Iron Orcs, wanting nothing to do with them, just moving them in a circle around them, just shooting them. He also charged this group into my skirmishing goblins. I just, stand and shot, did a couple more wounds just to kind of pick up my opponent, even though I know that these goblins are really going to basically die. They had no point. Over here, you can see my opponent kind of turned around his forces to try to box me in and see if he could kill my general and wizard. In close combat, he broke my skirmishing goblins, but actually did not catch them when he pursued. And then in shooting phase, he did manage to kill my wizard with his gutter runners, but my general is actually still alive. So that brings us to Sharnuk's Horde turn 5. Well, I still had my general, so I went ahead and declared the Wog to just charge my goblins into this Doomwheel, just hoping once more to maybe break it from combat and chase it off the battlefield. And as I don't have a lot left, we went straight into combat. He killed a couple of my guys. I don't think I did anything to him, and unfortunately he passed his leadership and we stuck. So that brings us to Vermin Swarm turn 6. So once more, he charged into these skirmishing goblins who I had rallied on my previous turn. Once more, I decided to stand and throw tomahawks, just because I could pick a few guys. It made me feel a little bit better to kill a couple. And then over here, I didn't have a picture of it, but with my wizard dead, my general just kind of danced around his troops so they get out of line of sight. So you can see he just kind of moved his troops around. Mainly, he just tried to get his gunner runners to put a wound on my general. And then in close combat, my opponent killed off a couple more goblins, but I think I managed to punk 1 wound onto it, and either that killed it or I broke it from combat and it ran off the board. I don't remember which one. In shooting, my orcs decided to stay in the forest for 2 reasons. 1, because it was in my opponent's deployment and I had a banner, and 2, the forest gave me light cover, so it hindered my opponent slightly, although you notice that I'm missing quite a few orcs. I use the word slightly here is because I lost like 12 Iron Orcs this turn. It hurt a lot, but I still had my banner, so that's what counted. So that brings us to Sharnuk's turn 6. So I just danced around my general. Other than that, I just had my goblins, which basically reformed, but they had no point. And then I had my Iron Orcs. And this is where I had a decision to make. I could either cast a fireball spell and try to blow up the Doomwheel that was near my Iron Orcs that had 1 wound remaining, or I could not risk it and know I would not miscast and everything would be okay. And my opponent was trying to, goad me to cast the spell, and and I was like, you know what? I came here to play. I'm not trying to win the tournament. Let's go ahead and cast a fireball. So I went ahead and cast a fireball, which I did, unfortunately, miscast. However, luckily, I only managed to do 3 wounds to myself. So I put a wound on my wizard, I put 2 wounds on the unit, and I still had my banner and captain left of that unit. So I barely managed to hang on to the secondary objectives. Whew, that was a close match. So this is the last picture I have for this battle, and I actually don't have a slide showing the points, but it was a 5-15 loss. However, because I had the secondary objectives, it actually became an 8-12 loss. So it was still a loss, but it was slightly cushioned by the fact that I had 2 banners in my opponent's deployment zone, while he only had 1 in mine. So MVPs, I think I got to give it to my goblins with the cave goblins because they managed to fight off a doom wheel. I mean, goblins usually don't do too much, so the fact that they can fight off a doom wheel, I was proud of them for that. Plus, they helped me get secondary objectives, so that definitely helped. I think mainly the problem with this battle is I just didn't know my opponent's army. I don't know Vermin Swarm at all, and it didn't help that I forgot that my opponent had the uh, strength 10 sword d6 wounds per hit. So if I would have remembered that, I probably would have maybe tried to put my spider on the opposite side of my feral orcs to have it maybe more as a flanker and maybe put my iron orcs in its place. But live and learn. It was fantastic. I had a great time. I think my opponent had a great time. It was overall a fun tournament. So this was the end of the OFCC tournament. I ended up coming in 4th because I lost this battle. I dropped down a couple stages, but that's okay. This was my first tournament. Coming in 4th, I'll take that. I'll just take coming in at all. Just playing with great people, great armies, great friends. That was fantastic. That's what I enjoyed most of this tournament. So that was great. Other than that, I think I'm coming to the end of this video, but if you guys have any comments or concerns or saw any mistakes I put in this video, please point those out. I would like to become a better player, and the best way to become a better player is make mistakes and have you guys point them out. Other than that, I think that's it. So this is Obsidian Anubis out, and you guys keep gaming on.